Hello, and welcome to the Growing Our Family podcast, Pregnancy Edition, where we'll discuss topics ranging from your very first positive test all the way through delivery. I'm your host, Brittany, and I'm a new mom to a beautiful baby boy. Throughout my pregnancy, I did hours of research on everything that came my way. Join me on a weekly chat where I'll share my knowledge and personal experiences with all of you. You are listening to episode 4, Getting a Free Breast Pump Through Insurance. Hey there, listeners. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Growing Our Family. I have seen so many moms register for breast pumps, but did you know you might be able to get one for free? If you live in the U.S., you qualify to get a free pump through your insurance under the Affordable Care Act, or ACA. This post is intended to help you navigate this process and explain how it all works. Although this sounds amazing, there are a few catches to this law. First, if you have had the same healthcare plan since before 2010, they are actually grandfathered in and don't have to provide you with a free pump. However, just because they're not required to by law does not mean that they will not still cover your pump, so the best way to determine this is just to give your provider a call and find out. The second catch is that your provider does not have to cover any specific pump, or even a double electric. Any manual pump is sufficient under the ACA. The following guide should help you determine how to figure out what limitations they'll set and how to navigate this whole process. And the third thing is, if you're not in the US, the laws are a little bit iffy on what insurances have to cover just based off where you're located. If you are in a different country, just call and check with your insurance provider just to see before purchasing a pump. For instance, many insurance companies in Canada cover a pump, but they may also require a prescription from your doctor. And there are also specific laws that require them to cover a pump if, like for example, if you live in Ontario and your baby is born prematurely, they are required to cover a pump for your preemie baby. So, I mean, like I said, the laws on other countries are just really hit or miss. So the best way is just to call your insurance provider and find out what they'll cover, if anything, before you spend the money on a pump. So if you're starting to look into how to get a free breast pump, the best way is just to call up your insurance provider. This is always tedious and nobody likes sitting on the phone with insurance. This is exactly why some companies will handle it for you, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the episode. If you call the number on the back of your insurance card, let them know you're expecting and that you'd like more information on how to receive a covered breast pump. They should give you all the necessary information, but just in case they leave anything out, here are some questions to ask that you can kind of follow up with and just ask them specific questions if they aren't giving you a lot of information. First, what kind of pump is covered? They have a whole bunch of different options. There's double electric, single electric, manual pumps. I mean, the list is really endless and they don't have to cover any specific pump. So it's best to find out what types are covered. And if they give you that information, you want to find out what specific pump is covered. Not only will they put limitations on the brand, but they can also put limitations on the specific model of pump. My insurance had limited it to 4 different brands with one model from each brand. The third question you can ask is if this pump is for purchase or will you be reimbursed for a rental. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. My insurance covered a double electric pump for purchase, and they covered a hospital-grade rental pump for the first few weeks until my milk was fully established. So you should definitely find out if they cover one or the other, or hopefully both. If they only cover a rental, you'll want to ask them how long that rental pump is covered for. You don't want to be stuck with the pump for only a week before you have to start paying out of pocket. At that point, it might actually be better to buy your own. And really, you just want to do the comparison, find out how much pumps are to rent, and then how long your insurance would cover it for, and just compare that to a cost of buying a normal double electric pump out of pocket. What dollar amount will be covered? So some insurance companies will cover up to a certain cost versus covering a specific pump. So if this is the case, you will want to find out the total amount covered so you can determine what pumps are within your budget. And you might also want to ask them if you can exceed that limit and just pay for the secondary portion out of pocket. For instance, if you want a pump that costs $300 and they cover $200 worth of pump, if you could still get that pump and just pay the extra $100 out of pocket. When can you get your pump? So I had no idea this was a thing before I called up my insurance company, and I found out I couldn't get my pump until after I delivered my baby. So I actually had to stop right after I delivered and go pick up my pump. And so you're just going to want to check with them and find out when you're allowed to get your breast pump, because you don't want it to void the coverage if you get it too early. Number 6, do you have to purchase your pump through a specific company? So one of my insurance companies, I could get it anywhere, and the other one, I had to purchase it at a specific store inside the hospital. And I couldn't get it anywhere else, or else they wouldn't cover it, even if I got the same pump that they covered. So this is a really important one that you want to ask. You don't want to just assume that because they cover a specific pump, you can just run and pick it up at Target and they'll cover it no matter what. If they do cover it at any store, you'll definitely want to make sure to hold on to your receipt and submit that for reimbursement as soon as possible. Question number 7, do they cover any parts or accessories with your pump? So along with your pump, you'll need tubing, flanges, bottles, and any other accessories that your pump in specific might need. So you're just going to want to ask if they cover any of those items or if you're going to have to pay for those separately out of pocket. And some pumps come with that stuff. So it might also depend on which pump you're looking into, whether or not it comes with all of the accessories or not. And finally, question number 8, do you need a prescription? So some insurance companies will need a prescription from your doctor, and this was super easy. My OB actually had a pre-written letter that he just signed and gave to me for the submission within 5 minutes of asking for it. Other insurance companies may not need a prescription, but they can still ask for proof of prenatal care. So if sitting on the phone with your insurance company and having to ask all those questions really stresses you out, there are companies that will do all the work for you so you don't have to deal with insurance at all. And when I first heard about these companies, I didn't really understand how they could not be a scam. And I did a lot of research and looked up a lot of mom blogs and other reviews from other moms that said they used them and had really good experiences with them. So I decided to give one of them a try, and I actually really love them. So I would definitely suggest at least looking into them because, at the very least, you don't have to go with them and it can't really hurt. But it is an option just to see if they work with your insurance and what pumps they can provide for you. So just a note, not all insurance companies work with these third-party suppliers. And I had one insurance company that did, and my other insurance company, like I said earlier, I had to buy it from a specific place in the hospital. So they didn't work with any of the third-party companies. I personally use Aeroflow. And it was super easy. I logged in, created an account, and inserted my insurance information. And then I was contacted by a representative after they determined what my insurance would cover. When you log on to your account, it'll show you all of the different pumps and what the out-of-pocket costs will be for you. So they listed off probably 6 pumps that were 100% free. And then it was more money. So for example, I ended up getting the Spectra S2. So for the S1, I could have paid, I think it was like $100 extra. out of pocket to get that one. Or if I wanted the S2 that came with a pump carry bag or the backpack or any of those extra accessories, those also cost additional money. So I ended up just getting the base one because I figured I could always find a pumping bag somewhere else, and it doesn't have to be a pumping bag. I just looked for any bag, and I shop at, all the Ross and Burlington, and so I was able to get one for much cheaper than what I would have had to pay out of pocket. The greatest thing about these third-party suppliers like Aeroflow is once you decide on a pump, they reach out to your healthcare provider and request a prescription if it's required by your insurance, and they do all of the work for you. They find out when you're eligible to receive a pump, and they'll mail it to you within the approved time period so that way it doesn't void your insurance. They find out what your insurance covers, if it's dollar amounts, if it's breast pumps. They reach out to your doctor. You just tell them who it is. They get your prescription. They send that to your insurance. So it really saves a lot of time for you, and it really worked out for me. So the one thing that I've heard from other moms is that they had to pay more for a pump through these companies compared to buying at a retailer, which is probably the only downside. For me, it didn't matter because my pump was free. So there's no way I could have gotten it for cheaper at another retailer than I could at Aeroflow. But if you sign on and put in all your information and they're charging you anything out of pocket for the pump that you want, I would definitely do some comparison research and find out if you're actually getting the best value. And who knows, even if it's not the best value, it might be worth it to you to not have to deal with your insurance and do all of that work and just have a pump sent directly to your house. So that's just a decision you're going to have to make, for yourself. But it ended up working out for me. So 3 of the most common companies I've heard of are Aeroflow, Edgepark, and Bram. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's BYRAM. But I haven't used Edgepark or Bram, so I can't comment on really either of those 2 companies. I've just read a lot of reviews saying moms got their pumps through them and they seem to be pretty happy with them. The links to all of these companies and their sign-up page for their breast pump program is going to be listed in my show notes. So you can check any of those out and decide for yourself what you want to do. I know this process seems like a bit of work, but if it saves you a few $100s on your breast pump, to me, that seems like it's totally worth it. So hopefully it helped you, and feel free to share this episode with any other expecting moms so that way you can hopefully save them some money as well. Because I know a lot of women that have never heard of this program, and they all think that they have to buy their breast pumps out of pocket. So this week, while we're on the topic of breast pumps, I decided to review my favorite manual pump, and that is the Haakaa. The Haakaa pump is amazing. I use it every single day, and if you don't know what a Haakaa is, it's a silicone breast pump that you can either use as a single pump or you can attach it to the breast that the baby is not feeding from to catch your letdown, plus a little extra. I know moms that collect anywhere from half an ounce to filling the entire Haakaa, so depending on the one you have, like 4 to 5 ounces, just from one side. And you just attach the Haakaa first, latch the baby on the other side, and just let the milk start flowing. It's so great for so many different reasons. First, exclusively breastfeeding moms can build up a little freezer supply for that rainy day without actually having to get out the pump, clean the parts, do all that. This item is just one piece, so it's really easy to clean, it's dishwasher safe, and it's just super easy to get a little bit of extra milk. Number 2, I've used it at night when I get engorged and baby doesn't empty the breast all the way, and I've actually gotten mastitis from leaving one side too full for the night, and it's definitely not fun. So I use this Haakaa every single night because now that my supply is raised. I can't lower my supply because I still need it because I pump at work every day. So the pump is just not as effective at getting milk out as the baby is. So I do get pretty engorged at night still. And so I need the Haakaa to just drain the rest of it. And at 2:30 in the morning, I definitely don't want to go plug into my electric pump. And 3, it is an easy travel pump that fits into your purse and doesn't need to be plugged in. And it's so simple to use without all of the extra pump parts. My lactation consultant actually recommended this to me, and I love how easy it is to get a little extra milk during the night without having to go through the whole extra setup. And just a tip, there is a better way of putting it on than what it says on their website. So instead of just putting it up to your breast and squeezing the bottom, what you're going to want to do is fold over the whole top flange so it's practically inside out, and then put that up against your breast. Squeeze the bottom just a little bit, and then fold the top back over. And then when you let go of the base, it should be really suctioned to your breast, and the milk will just start to drip out. And it is such a better latch. I've noticed when I'm feeding the baby, sometimes when he tries to kick his legs, it starts to knock that off. And with this better method that I found on a Google search, actually, I don't have that problem anymore. It's much harder to knock it off. So just so you're a little bit more familiar with the different models, there are multiple being sold on Amazon. So I'm going to just briefly go through the benefits of each one. So the first is the base model in the 4-ounce option, and it's the cheapest of all Haakaa brands, and it'll work just fine for collecting milk. The main difference is it doesn't have a suction base to stick it to the counter while you adjust baby or once you're done pumping. So it's just a little bit easier to fall over. I have the one with the base, and one time it wasn't suction down to the table and I knocked it over and it spilled milk all over the carpet. And anyone who uses the phrase, never cry over spilled milk, has never had to pump because it was 2 a.m. and I'll tell you right now, I cried a lot because I just was tired and stressed out, and it just sucks to work so hard to pump that milk just to waste it and then have to then go clean it all up out of the carpet. So I really enjoy the suction bottom, but you personally may not need it or feel like you need it. The second model is slightly more expensive, but it has the suction base for stability. And personally, I would spend the little extra money to get this model, but again, it's totally up to you. It also comes in a 4-ounce bottle, and the difference is about $4. So for me, just that one time that I spilled it, that right there is worth $4 to me. The third option comes with a flower stopper. And in case you're wondering what this is, I didn't know what it was when I bought my Haakaa in the first place. And looking back, I really wish I would have bought that upgraded model. The flower goes into the top section, the opening, and you suction it in, and it helps prevent spills. So it has 2 versions of the flower, and the cheaper one is only a 3-ouncer, and the more expensive version that has the suction base can hold up to 5 ounces. So I think 3 ounces is a little too small for, at least for my experience. I would probably go with the 5-ounce, and the 5-ouncer comes with the suction base. The fourth option has a travel lid for spill prevention, and this kind of does the same thing as the flower, but I think it's just a little bit more secure. So the first generation model does not have a base and it holds 3 ounces, and the second generation model comes with a base and it holds 4 ounces, but it is slightly more expensive. I've gotten away with not having any kind of lid or the flower, but like I said earlier, I think I would have gotten at least the flower insert if I could go back and do it again. The other option is just to keep a bottle wherever you typically pump, and you can just transfer the milk straight into a bottle and put a lid on it, and then you don't have to worry about it at all. I have the 4-ounce version, but I've only filled it all the way up a handful of times, and that's when I use it in the middle of the night. The top starts to narrow right around the 3-ounce line, and it becomes really easy to spill when you're trying to move it or reattach it because it's at an angle. So for this reason, I would probably suggest getting the 4 or 5-ounce bottles, but again, you could just keep a bottle nearby and transfer it into a different container and then put it back on. There are also some off-brand models of the Haakaa, such as the Nature Bond or the Bumblebee, and I haven't tried either of these brands, but they both have excellent ratings, and you definitely get more bang for your buck. Each of these sets that I found on Amazon comes with the silicone pump like the Haakaa, but it also comes with a stopper and a lid for a similar price to just the base model Haakaa. So I have posted these links to both of these along with all of the other links in my show notes. And just go through, check them out, look at the reviews, and you can determine what you think is the best fit for you. But honestly, I would highly suggest getting one of them, even if it's an off-brand. I hope this week helped you with figuring out how to get your free breast pump, and also with teaching you a little bit about the Haakaa, and hopefully you will add one to your registry or go onto Amazon and just get one for yourself. I 100% recommend them. And I just want to thank all of my listeners for joining us this week on Growing Our Family Pregnancy Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, growingourfamily.com. That's growingourfamily.com to see today's show notes and product links. Also, don't forget to rate and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you download your podcast so you always get the latest episodes. If you don't know the best way to listen to these, if you go to growingourfamily.com/pregnancy-podcast, you can see a whole list of places that you can get the podcast at, or you can listen to it right there on the website. If you've had your baby or just want to hear more about life after delivery, check out the Growing Our Family Parenting Edition. Please join me next week for another episode.